Welcome to the Rugby League Outsiders prediction video. This is the only prediction video on the internet that counts, in our opinion. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl. It's time to get on your club colours, get on Wembley Way. It's Challenge Cup final weekend.
Okay, before we get into the Challenge Cup final, let's have a rapid-fire recap of the games from this weekend. Kicking off with Giants versus Leigh.
Giants 24, Leopards 28. A game of two halves this one was. Huddersfield started terribly, leaky holes in the defence. And then in the second half, they really showed some character and came back into this game and really pushed Leigh all the way.
Yeah, Huddersfield showed a little bit of promise this week and a couple of their players really stood out. Some silly mistakes, especially at the start of the game.
Yeah, got some defensive reads all wrong, didn't they? And it looked like they were going to lack that effort. But I don't know, Luke Robinson turned it around at half-time. Must have said something to him at half-time. They came out second half, really got into the grind, and there were some star-studded moments. George Flanagan's try, I thought, in the second half was sublime, and I can't wait to see him carry on developing.
Yeah, I mean, it was brilliant throughout the whole game. Absolutely incredible. Moving on then, Hull KR welcomed Saints to Craven Park.
Yeah, 28 points to 4. This was at half-time. Hull KR 34, Saints 4. Mikey Lewis 2 tries, Jack Broadbent 2 tries. Just a class above Saints. The Saints were never really in the fight.
And a really strong win ahead of the Challenge Cup final this weekend.
Yeah, confidence booster. I mean, the most important thing was they didn't really come away from that with any injuries, which I don't think they have at this moment in time of recording. We shall see when the team sheets come out. But yeah, Hull KR flying high going into the final.
Next game then, Salford took on Wigan.
Wigan rested a few players. I think they need to rest a few players to Wigan. But they still came out easy winners against Salford. It was 46 points to 6. Jacob Douglas for Wigan with a hat-trick.
The next game then involving another Challenge Cup team, and that's Warrington, who took on Castleford.
Warrington 34, Castleford 24. If you're a Wire fan, are you happy with this result? I don't know. I think they played all right in patches. I think they took the foot off the gas a little bit. Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I would expect him to perform a little bit better against Castleford, and it's not so much the points for, it's the point against that worries me. You know, Castleford, they did run out of ideas at times, and although they had a bit of a spirited attack and scored some points, really, Warrington, I think, was far too leaky for me.
Yes, Sneed was great in attack, especially his kicking game. Absolutely beautiful try, the score with a little chip over. But he got 2 defensive reads horribly wrong, which actually cost Warrington 2 tries. They've got to sort that out this weekend.
Definitely a point that the Hull KR are gonna target. More on that a little bit later on. Moving on to the next game then, Leeds welcome Wakefield to Headingley.
Yeah, Leeds 22, Wakefield 18. This is a game I got wrong. I predicted that Wakefield were going to take this. Another game that was a game of two halves, really. Leeds were in full control of this at half-time. They took the foot off the gas a little bit, though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And then Darryl Powell, after the match, he sort of said that he knew that they were kind of comfortable with the win that they had, or the lead that they had, and he thought if you can just put the foot down and work really hard, they could catch Leeds by surprise. Lo and behold, they did. There was a little bit of a reshuffle in the Leeds team. Lachlan Miller came off. Jake O'Connor then to move to fullback, and he was just a little bit out on a limb, whether he just had enough time or mental capacity to change his thought processes or whatever. I don't really know. Managed to narrowly hold on to the win, went down to the dying seconds.
Yeah, Max Jowett with a double. Wakefield really turned it on in the second half. I feel if that game had gone 5 minutes longer, that Wakefield would have probably got back level.
I completely agree. And Jowett on fire, as he has been all season.
Yeah, it was a great game to watch.
And then off to the south of France, really disappointing for Catalan, who lost again to Hull FC.
Yeah, Catalan 0, Hull FC 34. Catalan have now let in 122 points in 3 games and haven't scored a point. Falling to pieces it is at Catalan at the minute.
Yeah, it is, and it just doesn't seem to be getting any better at the minute. Still no announcement of a new head coach. Sam Tompkins, obviously, no, wrong. Joel Tompkins, obviously doing what he can in the interim. But, some senior players there, some top players, not even on the park at the minute.
I think you've got to say some senior players they should just never have signed because they haven't. They've come over on probably what you would have thought decent wages, and they haven't really performed this year for Catalan at all. On the other side to that, Hull, I thought were great, very clinical, and Will Price with 2 brilliant tries at the weekend.
Yeah, 2 contenders for try of the season, surely. Like 80, 90 metre efforts, just incredible.
Yeah, it looks rapid, didn't he? I mean, his dad was pretty quick, but I think Will's probably quicker than his dad. Anyway, yeah, Hull FC were great.
Right, moving on then. So this weekend we've got a really, really exciting weekend of rugby. Obviously, we're going to turn off the lights up north, head down to London, to Wembley, and we've got the 1895 Cup, the Women's Challenge Cup final, and also the Men's Challenge Cup final. And we're going to dive into those games right now, Karl, starting with the 1895.
Yeah, Featherstone versus York taking place this week. The 1895 Cup takes place after the Challenge Cup finals. At this moment in time, we don't have many team sheets. Both know that both sides had a good win this weekend, so they'll be looking red hot going into this final.
Yeah, and we will bring you more on this game later in the week when we get more news of the teams and the selections and all this kind of stuff. So join us back on Thursday where we'll be diving into that and putting more meat on the bones of the other 2 games. Next game I want to talk about then is the Women's Challenge Cup final where we see Saints taking on Wigan, local derby.
Yeah, loads of intrigue in this one. There's a couple of reasons for this. It's second v first in the table. Wigan are actually sat at the top of the table. Now, we've been following the Women's Rugby League for a few seasons now at Super League level, and Wigan have always been outside that sort of top 3. You've always had Leeds, Saints, York. Have you been your big 3? Wigan have always kind of been your 4th side, nudging up every year. They've been getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. This year, however, it feels like they're probably the form team going into this final.
Well, no, I wouldn't even say the form team. I'm saying some of their results has been stratospheric. It's just been absolutely crazy. The results they're putting past really well-established teams. Like Wigan are not just like, they've made it into like the top 3 or whatever. They're almost obliterating everyone else, and it sets up this game to be really, really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Saints have probably got the more experienced team going into this final. They've been there and done it, haven't they? Plenty of times before. On the other hand, Wigan, they've been nurturing some of these academy players who've been coming up through the ranks for a couple of years. They've added a sprinkling of Australians into the side this year who've sort of like had experience playing at like state of origin level and things like that. And it's just made for a really exciting Wigan side. So you've got a bit of the experience of the Saints against the up-and-coming Wigan side with some Australian talent in there.
Yeah, so I mean, this event is historic for a number of reasons. First of all, it's the first time we've had a local derby at Wembley in the women's game. So Saints taking on Wigan, a rivalry that what we all know about. Anyone that's involved in rugby league and follows rugby league knows how important this is for both teams. As well as that, this is Saints' 5th consecutive final. Yeah, and not only that, there's some players that have played in every one of those games. Now and that's a lot of experience to bring to a big game. But also, one of the things that you and I picked out is that with experience quite often comes age. And Saints have got some aging players now. They're still performing incredibly well. But sometimes youth just takes the biscuit. And I'm wondering if Wigan are just that little bit younger, that little bit fitter, and that little bit more hungry.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like your Amy Hardcastle, Jodie Cunninghams, Shona Hoyle. there's plenty of players who've been around, haven't they, at Saints, but they know how to win. They know how to win on the big stage, and they've done it plenty of times before. So it just makes for a really interesting game. Looking at the Wigan side, then I'll talk about Wigan's win at the weekend. Actually, they defeated Leeds at the weekend, 34 points to 12. It's the first time they've beaten Leeds at Headingley, and there's a real change of the guard there. Dennis Betts said after the game, he said, we've come out of this game with an awful lot of confidence. He said, however, the girls in the changing room still aren't happy with that performance, and they just put 34 points on Leeds. That tells you that the standards that they're setting at Wigan this year. So, yeah, I think Dennis Betts has done a great job with that side. Really, really driven them forward. Molly Jones scored 3 tries for Wigan this week, a player who's come up through the ranks at Wigan. And when I said to you they've mixed a few sort of Aussie talent in there, they've got Shania Power from Australia, 2023 Player of the Year in Australia, and Remy Wilton, who came over from Australia last year, joined York Valkyrie, and has made the switch to Wigan. So 2 players there to watch. Who are the ones to watch at Saints, do you think?
I think there's a few players to watch. There's some of the old stagers. In that, I include Faye Gaskin. Who's the other halfback? Zoe Harris.
Yes, Zoe Harris.
Faye Gaskin, Zoe Harris, and Amy Hardcastle. When you think about that spine, now to complete, then they're definitely players to watch. They can move, the team around the park, lead from the front, and then obviously Faye Gaskin's foot is going to be crucial, like kicking this weekend. But to complete a spine, you need one extra player, and that's the fullback. And they've got a really exciting prospect in Berry Salihi. I struggle with that name. Interesting facts about her. Not only is she one of the youngest players on the pitch this weekend, but she signed from Wigan at the start of the season, and she's having a brilliant start to the season already. Yeah. So I think as a spine, that is an incredible prospect. And if they can get the pack to work hard, everyone else to pull together, they have got the makings of a strong win here. They
raided the Rhinos locker room as well, didn't they, in the off season? They brought Caitlin Casey over with Amy Hardcastle, and Casey was like Player of the Year, wasn't she? Or Young Player of the Year last year. Might have got that wrong. Yeah, she was either Player of the Year or Young Player of the Year last year. She offers so much direction as well to the Saints side. You've got to say, these are the 2 top sides in the Women's Super League this year. I think York have dropped a little bit. Leeds have dropped a little bit. We've got to call it, though. Who are you going for the win on this one?
Do you know, I can't think of... I just think Wigan are going to win this. And I think it'll be an amazing feather in the cap for Dennis Betts. And I take my mind back to that. We sat in that press conference, and last year, and Dennis Betts was saying, we want to be one of the top teams in Women's Super League. And I remember him, the conviction in his voice and in his words, like you could just feel it, right? And now this is it. This is the cherry on the top for the Cherry and Whites. It's like, if they win this game, they are not only, would I say, like one of the top teams, but literally the best team, certainly in this competition, and more than likely in Super League as well. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? They were both writing St Helens off, who've been there, done it. But I'm going with you. I think I see a bit of an upset on the cards here. I think Wigan are going to win the first Challenge Cup.
Right, Karl, let's move on then to the men's game then. This is a mouth-watering affair. We have got High Flyers Hull KR, which are just unstoppable at the minute, and then Warrington, who are in a bit of disarray at the minute, sitting towards the bottom end of the table. And let's just talk about the elephant in the room. How can someone who's sitting sort of 7th, 8th in the table take on, the top of the table heroes and think that they could come up with a win?
Yeah, I think all Warrington fans are probably screaming at the screen right now because they know they've had so many injuries this year. Is that an excuse? I don't know, because I think strength in depth plays a massive part in the Super League squad, and I think you go into a Super League season, you've got to have a lot of strength to your squad. You can't just have a starting lineup and a bench. So strength in depth is important. I spoke last week, didn't think they've quite recruited enough this year. However, we don't know at this moment in time which players are going to come back and be playing at the weekend. Obviously, we know Matty Ashton out for the season, and Danny Walker, out, not going to be playing. George Williams we believe is going to be playing. So he is instrumental for Warrington. And I think if he plays and he's on top of his game, that gives Warrington a little bit of a chance, I think.
Yeah, it does. And by the way, like I mentioned before, we will put more meat on the bones of this once the teams drop and we get more team news. And we're aiming for another video on Thursday where we'll go much deeper into it when we actually have more information to work with. For now, though, you're right. I think if George Williams is even only half fit, Sam Burgess has got to play him, because I don't think he stands a chance against Hull KR without George Williams. And I'm not saying that one player, can win this game for them, but they need more. They've got to have something. He's a proven player, isn't he?
Okay.
He's talent. He's got talent in abundance, and they're just going to need him and his control of the team if they're going to stand a chance.
Yeah, I think if George Williams isn't playing, we call this now, and I don't even think it's a competition. I think Hull KR win comfortably. George Williams playing, different dynamics again. Let's have a look at the spines, actually, the two sides. So we're likely to see Sneed and Williams in the halves for Warrington, and Hull KR more than likely it's going to be Tyrone May and Mikey Lewis. Take a comparison between those two, the spine of either of those two sides, and throwing it there, the hookers actually, Jez Litton with Hull KR, and it's probably going to be Sam Powell with Warrington. Who do you think's got the strongest spine there?
Yeah, I mean, all contrasting players, really, aren't they? You look at Mikey Lewis, the mercurial Mikey Lewis, just performs magic every weekend on that left side, can just find holes. He's got the pace to get through, an absolute crowd favourite. Tyrone May, also an interesting player that does some, he finds space where there just doesn't seem to be space, and the pass is often absolutely on the money. Look at the other side then, you've got George Williams, who his short kicking game is sublime, world class, controls the team well, has made a big transformation in the way that he goes about his business. He's been forced almost to be a leader and pick that role up, by the scruff of the neck, and he's running with it. And then Sneed, we know what Sneed's all about. There is two sides to Sneed's game, as we know. We saw that in evidence at the weekend, where I think some of his defensive errors, if they'd have come off, it would have been brilliant. They didn't, and it cost them tries. And as much as Sneed must be worth 10, 12 points with his boot every week, he can cost them that. So that's an area where I think Hull KR will be targeting. Powell is an old stager, stacks of experience, and he knows what he's doing in big games like this. If he can stay on the pitch, if he is on the pitch, we don't know at the minute in terms of injury. And then Jez Litton, world class. He's just a rising star right now. So
Jez Litton's had an awesome season, hasn't he? I love watching Jez Litton play this year. Just he reads the game so well, and it sends the team around the pitch and puts them in the right place, and it gives Hull KR that level of attack where they can attack from any area of the field, because I think he often puts them in the right place. I think Mikey Lewis takes a lot of credit for that, but Jez Litton steers that side around really well. If you look at the strengths of both spines, then I think you've got to say, are the more attacking side. Kind of can throw something at you when you don't expect it. I've said to you a few times this year, Hull KR like to actually attack from quite deep, and they're often dangerous 40 metres out. On the other side, I think if Warrington are going to play to their strengths, it's definitely the kicking game. I think Warrington have the stronger kicking game of the two spines, and Warrington really need to play on that at the weekend. The George Williams grubber kick, Sneed, little chips over, a 40-20 here and there may really turn the game for Warrington. So, yeah, I think Warrington have got to use their kicking game to their advantage.
Just going back to Jez Litton, one of the things that I find with Jez Litton, and probably the whole Hull KR team, with the exception of Michael Lewis probably, they're just clinical. They're just clinical. They keep their head. They're level-headed. They've got equal parts aggression and equal parts calm and composed. You look at some of the players. Sam Powell, stands to mind. He can become overly aggressive. Sam Powell at times, especially in an emotional big game like this. And I think he really needs to keep his head. if he's gonna feature and play a part in this game, because Hull KR will put the pressure on them, and I think anything like that will just expose chinks in people's armour where they start to get tired. We know how quick Hull KR are at the blocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got a chance of blowing Warrington away within the first 5 or 10 minutes. So Warrington are really going to have to try and contain this Hull KR attack within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, so back onto Warrington then. I've picked out my one to watch as Matt Duffy. I think if Warrington is to score points, it generally comes through this guy. He's either scoring it himself or he's pulling something out of the bag with some incredible miss-out pass or something like that. So I think Duffy is another player who's got to have an incredible game. But again, he's one of them players who can blow hot and cold. Sometimes what you're getting with him in attack is absolutely sublime, next level. Defensively, though, he's very questionable on his day.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you know, and Hull KR, like you said, the attack from depth, right? And where I think Matt Duffy has been exposed recently is in those breaks, you know, where one-on-one breaks, where I don't know whether he questions his own ability, size, you know, plays a part. He makes the wrong decision. I don't know what it is. I'm not a good enough defensive, you know, reader to know what's going on, but he's been found wanting there. And Hull KR can make breaks. They really, really can make breaks. So, yeah, you're right. A couple of weaknesses there, and I think these are the subtle differences that are going to make a big play a big part of the weekend.
Yeah, but like I said, attacking wise, he's one of the most dangerous guys in Super League on his day. When he's attacking that line and he's in full flight, he's so hard to handle. And he made a mockery of Saints, didn't he, the other week? He thought he was great. He's another player that has to have a big game for Warrington to stand a chance of winning this game. Back over to Hull KR then. I've picked out the one to watch for Hull KR as Joe Burgess. And Joe Burgess, who is now, I believe, pushing himself for an England place at the end of this season in that Ashes series.
Well, he certainly can't be overlooked.
Well, especially with the injuries we've now got, with like Ashton's not going to be there. It's opening up for him, and he's having a great season. Yeah,
he is. You know, I don't really know. I can't. I've no words against that. So sometimes I quite, you know, I like to butt against you.
I know.
And give like a contrast.
Just say, yeah, you're right, Karl. Yeah, you know it.
I'm not going that far. By the way, where's your bloody uniform? Where's your top this week after giving me crap last week?
Yeah, well, it's nearly same, isn't it?
Oh yeah, nearly.
Yeah, but Hurricanes won at the weekend as well. Second in the league, so shout out to the Midlands Hurricanes.
Right, back to this. So tell me, Karl. So if you could pick out a couple of things, why is Joe Burgess one to watch? Bearing in mind the strength of the side Hull KR.
Because he backs up the breaks that they make, and he's often on the end of them. And like a lot of players in Super League, especially on the wing, he knows how to finish. But I think his strike rate now, it's got to be up there with the top players in Super League for finishing. When you've got that small gap to go for, you've got a winger to beat, you've got to get your arm out and just get that ball down. And there's so many players that are good at it. And Joe Burgess is right up there, and his support play is really good as well. He's still got the speed that he had when he was younger. So I think if Hull KR win, I'd expect to see him on the score sheet this weekend.
Just going back to the semi-finals. Now Paul Vaughan had a massive game in the semi-finals.
Yeah, he did.
You know, and as did a few other players, and that led to the Warrington win. We need that performance again if Warrington are going to... There's loads of ifs, buts and maybes with Warrington. Hull KR just need to do what they've done well.
I mean,
all season.
We haven't give our predictions yet, have we? But I think as I think you can hear us speaking, we're both to the side that Hull KR are clear favourites going into this, aren't they? And it's Warrington's game to win. Warrington have got to find a way to beat Hull KR. And yes, you're right. Paul Vaughan had a great game in the semi-final. Have I seen him back it up since? He's been okay. He's been fairly consistent. That semi-final, though, he played really well. And I completely agree with you. He's got to lead that pack, hasn't he, for Warrington? I think Warrington's pack's not as strong as the Hull KR pack. Paul Vaughan is another one. He has to have a really good game.
Yeah. So that's basically it. You hit the nail on the head there. It's Warrington's game to win, and it's Hull KR's game to lose.
Yeah.
As we sit here right now, and that's not being disrespectful to Warrington. And I know there'll be a lot of Warrington fans like kicking the computer screens in and all that because of what we're saying. But you've only got to look at the league table to see the difference in performance this year. I know it's the cup, and things change in the cup. However, current form is current form, and there's a gulf between the two teams at the minute. Is there a chance that this could be the biggest loss or the biggest win in Challenge Cup history? Such is the difference. I mean, I can't remember such a difference in the two teams in Challenge Cup final since Sheffield Eagles.
That is a throwback, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the positions.
I know Warrington have had a lot of injuries. There's still a lot of class in that team, and the Sam Burgess coached side, I think he'll have them fired up. I think they'll be ready. I question if they can get it done on the big stage, though. I know. I don't want to be the guy that says that phrase.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do question whether Warrington can get it done on the big stage.
Can we play a little bit of make believe?
Go on then.
Can we make believe? Like, what would happen if Sam Burgess dusted off his boots? What do you think would happen? I know this is like, absolute fantasy.
It gets smashed.
Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah, he's not fit anymore. God, I can just see that getting clipped in these guys. People going, these guys are talking absolute bollocks again.
What's new? Right, Karl. So we've made a prediction. Can you go as far as predicting a score?
I want to talk about one more player,
right,
just before we make our predictions. And I don't even know if he'll play this week,
right?
Because I think he's on the cusp of this whole KR side. Iribe Doro, I thought was brilliant at the weekend, and I've watched a lot of Iribe Doro. We had him at Bradford last year. He was class, absolutely. He was one of the best players in the Championship. It surprised me he hadn't had as much chance with Hull KR as what he has this year. But he got some real good game time at the weekend, and he was brilliant. I'd be interested to see if he makes the bench for Hull KR this weekend.
Oh, he's just made of granite, isn't he? I mean, he's
he just whacks people. And he runs so hard. He's such a handful. I hope he gets a chance this weekend to play at Wembley.
Brilliant. Right, okay, so Iribe Doro for the Lance Dodd Trophy.
Oh, is that what we're doing? We're picking Lance Dodd Trophy winners?
Well, we've definitely got to talk about it, haven't we?
I think this is an obvious answer, but I think it's set up for him. I think Mikey Lewis for man of the match. And he's having a quality season. And we've debated, haven't we, all year, right? Who's going to be the England starting halfbacks? It's going to be Smith and Williams. That's what everybody says. It's going to be Smith and Williams. We need control. Do you know what? We need some flair if we're going to beat the Aussies. And how this guy's playing at the minute, I back him all day in an England shirt. So, I think if he's really going to make his mark for England, he's got to do it on the biggest stage. That's either at the grand final or in the Challenge Cup final. So here's his opportunity to really show his talent. And he got man of the steel last year. I think Hull KR are going to win. And I think Michael Lewis is going to pick up man of the match. That's my two predictions for this weekend.
I agree.
You can't disagree, can you?
No, I'm going to agree with that. But I'm just going to throw like a romantic idea out, if you like. Okay, and that is that Broadbent picks up the player of the match. I think because, he's like Artem Org, obviously cup tied, can't play. All right. So yeah. Broadbent, we expect he's going to drop down into fullback there, and this is set up for like a wonder performance. I think it's either going to be dire or it's going to be brilliant. And he's on fire, isn't he?
Yeah, he played great last weekend.
Flip that, and I think if Wolves win, all right, then I think Matt Duffy will take the player of the match award. So that they're my kind of two predictions. What if Warrington do win? And I know like a player from an opposing side can win. It's happened before, hasn't it? But
yep.
Who would you pick for Warrington?
I'd say if Warrington are to win, it's because they've had a great kicking game. They've knocked a couple of 40-20s. They've scored tries from kicks. So I'm going to go with Mark Sneyd, a player that wasn't even at Warrington at the start of the season. He's been the buy of the year for them. If Warrington are to win, he will have a great game. So I'm going for Mark Sneyd for Warrington, if Warrington win.
Right, so there are little predictions and our comments about the game. I'll be really interested to hear what your comments are and who you think is going to walk out winners of this week, of this year's Challenge Cup final. Hopefully we're going to be there, Karl. We're really looking forward to it.
Knocking about on Wembley Way. Yeah, we'll be there.
So if you're kicking around, come and say hello. And remember that on Thursday, we're looking at pushing out another video called The Team Sheet, where we'll have more news about the teams in the run-up to the final. So make sure you tune in for that. Any final comments, Karl?
No, just looking forward to it. Wembley's one of the days of the year. I think it's great to see fans from all different teams just getting along to Wembley and enjoying a kick-ass day of rugby, which I'm sure it will be.
Until next time, take care.